Welcome back to another Sunday prep day. If you're new here, every Sunday I prep for the week. So that means cutting all my vegetables and making things that take a little bit longer. So today I'm going to make some pickled cucumbers. And I'm just going to start off by cutting up this spring onion, well, 2 spring onions. And I'll use those for a stir fry, some quesadillas, etc. So let's start by going over the menu. So the meal plan for the upcoming week. So today, Sunday, as usual, I'm gonna have some sandwiches, and I just have some ham and some rolls to put that ham on. I'll probably do some lettuce and that kind of stuff. So, and then for dinner tonight, I'm gonna do some chicken sandwiches. So I'm gonna take some chicken thighs, boneless, skinless, and I will coat those in some harissa spices to make it nice and spicy. Normally you would do like egg to make the crumb stick, but I'm going to do harissa paste, and I'll have that with some lettuce and the homemade pickles. But yeah, so I'll use panko breadcrumbs, by the way, to make the crumb coating. Then for Monday, Meatless Monday, for lunch, I'm going to have some hummus with some crudités. I just bought some hummus. I didn't make it myself this time. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some noodles with like a stir fry on top. So that's sweet and sour sauce with some fake chicken and lots of veggies. So let me cut up another onion. So yeah, the stir fry is one of the reasons I need some onion. And I'm just doing a yellow and a red just because that's what I had. Then we're on Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. First for lunch, I'm going to do a pork chop with some cauliflower. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some quesadillas. So quesadillas are not technically tacos, but I'll stretch Taco Tuesday a little bit, the definition. And why I do a lot of theme meals, it's just easier to plan. Because when you have all the options in the world, because you're just cooking for one person, it gets overwhelming sometimes and you don't know what you actually want. So by having theme days, I'm limiting myself a little bit, just so it makes it easier to plan things. And then we're on Wednesday. For lunch, I'm going to do some keto chicken nuggets. So that's some chicken with almond meal, and I'll do some harissa spices probably, because I like a bit of spice. And I'll have that probably with some broccoli or something. When I do mention the thing, it's like broccoli or green beans or cauliflower or things like that, I can actually change things around during the week. I know I'll be using them at some point during that week, but it doesn't matter to me when I have which, because I'm not prepping the whole meal. I'm just prepping the ingredients, so I can still change things around. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some orzo with some chicken and lots of veg. So that's one of the things I need some garlic for, which I'm chopping up now. So I'm just going to do a couple of cloves of garlic. And that leaves us on Thursday. So for lunch, I'm going to do some sausage with some broccoli. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some chicken wraps. I had those last week as well, and I quite like them. So that's some chicken that I grill with some lettuce, some creme fraiche. In this case, last time I used the sour cream. And then Friday, Fish Friday. For lunch, I'm going to do some salmon with some green beans. And then for dinner, I'm going to do some fish burgers. So I have some breaded fish in the freezer, and I'll just use that. Now, I'm cutting up some carrots for my hummus with crudités. So I'm going to cut those into spears. Perfect for dipping. And I start with these first because some of the bigger carrots that I need to cut down, I can use the remainder for slices because I also need slices for my my stir fry, etc. So I'm just taking the very tip off and the top. This one's a little bit long, so I'll cut that down. And that is perfect for my crudités. And then this remaining bit, I'll just cut in half and slice. And I'll slice up the rest of these carrots as well for my orzo and my stir fry. Then up next, I have some cucumbers, and these also are going to go in my hummus with crudités. So I'll cut parts of these in spears, and again, the parts that are too long I'll use up later. And that later is for some pickled cucumbers. So I'll just take my slicer. I can do this by hand, but the slicer is far more consistent and quicker. So I'll just slice all of these, and that's why I started with the spears, because I can just use the leftovers for this as well. And a couple of whole ones. And I'll just turn these into pickles in a bit. I'm just going to finish cutting all my vegetables first. Then next up, I have a bunch of peppers, and I'm going to cut them in a few different ways. So first I'm going to take the cheeks off and take the seed bits out. And don't throw away all the offcuts, by the way, because those are perfect for dicing up. So I'm going to cut these peppers in a few different ways. I'll cut them in some spears for my hummus with crudités, some ribbons for like my quesadillas, and some cubes for things like the stir fry. But first, the longest cuts I'll get out of the way first, because then I can use the offcuts for other things. So I'll cut a couple of spears for my crudités, and this I'll cut across for things like my quesadillas. Did I mention what kind of quesadillas, by the way? They're with sausage. And the last few bits I'll just dice up, and that'll go nicely in like my orzo and stuff. And I'll just repeat the same thing for the other two peppers. Alright, that's the peppers done. And then I have a couple of chilies. So I'll just take off the top, cut them in half, and take the seeds out. Not because it's super spicy or anything, just because I don't like the big seeds or the seed pods you get in jalapenos. Like, there's so much pith. So I'll just remove them of all these jalapenos. And then I'll just give them a quick slice. And these are going to go in my orzo, in my quesadillas, in my stir fry, and actually some of these red ones, let me put them in with the pickles just for a bit of extra flavor and some contrast. But yeah, I'll just quickly slice up all these other ones. And speaking of contrast, one of the main reasons I'm using different kinds of different colors of peppers is just for different colors, some contrast. They don't really taste that different. Then next up, some cauliflower for one meal. And I'll just cut these into bite-sized pieces. And I'll do the exact same with some broccoli. And I'll do enough for 2 portions. And don't throw away the stem, because that's perfect for things like broccoli rice and that kind of stuff. So I'm just taking the leaves off, and I'll just save this for another day. And then lastly, for chopping, I just have a bunch of green beans, enough for 2 meals, and I'm just going to top and tail the lot of them. Okay, that's all the chopping done, and then a quick time check. We're at 26 minutes, so I'm just going to put away everything I don't need anymore, and then I'll make the pickles. And to make my pickles, I'm just going to take some vinegar. You can use any old vinegar. This is just plain distilled vinegar. I'll add a quick splash of water, a bit of salt, and I'll add some sugar. How much sugar you add depends on your personal preference. I don't like it too sweet, so I'll just do like 1.5 tablespoons. And I'll just let that come up to a simmer until all the sugar has dissolved, and then the pickling liquid is ready. So the pickling liquid has come up to a simmer. Here I have my cucumbers, my chilies. I add a little bit of garlic just for some flavor, and I'll add a little bit of mustard seeds for some flavor as well. Then I'm going to take my pickling liquid and I'll just pour that right over. These are just refrigerator style pickles, by the way. They're not fermented or anything, so they won't last forever, but they should last at least a week or 2 in the fridge. Fill all the way to the top. Make sure everything is submerged, and then put on a lid. And then I'll just let this cool down, and that's ready to go for my chicken sandwiches, my fish sandwiches, etc. So yeah, that's all the prep work for this week. If you like this, I do this every single Sunday, and if you would like to see what I do with all the things that I prepped, every meal I post on Instagram, you'll find the link to my Instagram in the description box below. And you can also check out the video that I post about once a month on here, where I show you a whole week of everything I eat in a day, and I just posted one this past Friday. So yeah, if that sounds good to you, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and thank you for watching. Until next time, bye for now.